How do you prepare new members of your team for that kind of environment?
So part of it is the people that I hire. I tend to look for people that I really like hiring veterans. I really like hiring, ex-law enforcement folks, largely for that reason, right? They're just very kind of accomplished and understand the dealing with stress and kind of pushing through some of that stress, those stressful events, and being able to get the job done. But I also look for people that have like, corporate experience, right? Because you don't face similar stress, but there is related stress there, right? You typically have a lot more politics to deal with. You have a lot more levels of leadership to deal with. And, being able to look at somebody that has that background is important. So, I think what's really cool about threat intel is you don't have to hire the super technical guy that has a computer science degree, right? It's you can hire people from all over the place. I have, one of my employees was a career intelligence analyst, very high level in the government, from a military standpoint. And he has that very measured approach to how to get things done. He's got a lot of experience in those stressful, high stakes environments. And then one of my other employees, came out of a master's degree program at one of the universities in DC. And, she is like an amazing communicator and, is able to jump into things and figure things out. And, two very different people, but, very complementary. So, being able to kind of hire that sort of person and, understand that they've got some of that high stakes background and they've got some of that stress management capability already, I think kind of puts them into the space. The other thing I'll say is that people in threat intelligence tend to be like folks in incident response and, red team and stuff. And they understand that that stress is part of the job, right? I'm going to go into this job. I'm on call 24/7 for the most part. If something happens, they're going to expect me to give my perspective and help solve the problem. So, just making sure that one, the person has the background that will let them deal with that. And two, the person has an understanding that that's what they're stepping into.